Welcome to the Influence of Hip Hop. I'm LL Cool J featuring DJ Z Trip. We are live from the King Pleasure exhibit. You know what I mean? Celebrating the life work of Jean-Michel Basquiat. His life, his legacy, his art. And we have his sisters in the building, Lisanne and Janine. Make some noise for them. Now,
all right.
And we also have De La Soul in the building as well. Normally, the one thing I want to do today is, in talking to you ladies, is I don't want to try to see the world through, I don't want to talk to you to see the world through Jean-Michel's eyes. I want to see the world through your eyes. And, you know, I want to talk to you and understand your upbringing, because that's would probably be a similar experience for you, but to Jean-Michel, but I want to know about your upbringing. So tell us, we discussed it a little bit before, but tell the world, tell me about your upbringing. Janine, Lisanne, whoever, I'll go with you first. Tell me about your upbringing and what it was like growing up, as a Basquiat.
Wow, that's a big question. You're coming out with the big guns. Coming up as a Basquiat felt different. We are first generation. Our father was from Haiti. He left Haiti in the middle of what was going on in Haiti with Duvalier. And so he came to this country with that on his back. Our mother was a black Puerto Rican woman from Brooklyn, Bushwick specifically. And our parents really had this different vision for how they wanted to raise their kids and the kind of life that they wanted to curate for their children. So we grew up going to the museum in Brooklyn, going to the Brooklyn Museum, going to the Prospect Park, the Meadow in Prospect Park, Grand Army Plaza, library. We grew up listening to jazz and to classical music and to, Shirley Bassey and Peggy Lee and music all the time, every day, all the time. And we also grew up in a household where it was very important to our parents and to the people around us that we were raised in culture and that we were raised to think and that we were people who could achieve whatever it is that we wanted to achieve. Now, of course, from the Haitian perspective, that should be accountant, lawyer, a white-collar profession. But it really, we really grew up in a household where it was about accomplishment and success, but it was also about enjoying life. Great food. We would have Eggs Benedict every Sunday. We'd have brunch. And people were like, "Oh, you like you said,
fancy, huh? Oh, yeah, fancy, huh?
Super fancy." Yeah, so we would have brunch. We'd have like bouffe bourguignon and all this other stuff. And to really answer the question, I felt very different as a young person. I felt very different because our parents made the decision to co-parent, but with us living in a household with our father.
Got it.
So I grew up always feeling like I was a little bit different than the people that were around me. First of all, we grew up in an upper middle class household. We grew up where I would go to friends' houses and they'd have their mother there in the house with them, and I didn't have that. There was also, and it was actually the reverse. So whenever there was a situation where there was a single parent, not sole, but single, it was always the other way around. And so for me, I grew up in this world that felt very different from me. But at the same time, when I look back on it today, I look back on these experiences of also understanding the world outside of kind of the microcosm that we lived in as children growing up.
Wow,
Yeah.
Wow. Janine?
So for me, I just remember a lot of fun. Jean-Michel, Lisanne, and I, we lived in the moment. We had fun. It was a time where there was no iPads and there was no social media. No, you had to make your own fun. You had to make your own good time. And so the three of us would get together, and when we lived in Puerto Rico for a little bit. And while we were there, we lived in this long apartment with it's called a railroad apartment with a long hallway. And so Jean-Michel said, hey, I want to ice skate like we did in New York. So we threw water and soap on the floor, and we would ice skate in the hallway. And my father would come home, and he's like, why is the floor sticky? And we're like, oh, we cleaned the floor. And then he'd come back the next day, same thing. And he's like, why is the floor sticky again? Oh, well, we cleaned the floor again. So, it was things like that we did. Jean-Michel was, he was always the ringleader and very, creative, not only in the way that he painted, but also just creative in how we had fun as kids. He would have us. There was one story where he had me. There was one time where he had me. Mary Poppins was out at the time, and so he thought it would be fun for me to emulate Mary Poppins. So he convinced me to get up on top of the armoire with an umbrella to see if I could fly.
Convinced, I think that's a strong word.
Yeah, I was like a toddler,
Hey.
so so I didn't know any better. Definitely didn't work out, but that was Jean-Michel. He did things for Halloween. He would put a Raggedy Ann doll at the top of the stairs and dress it up elaborately so that it looked like an alien when you walked in, and he'd have the room completely dark. So that was Jean-Michel, his humor, and kind of the antics that I would call them, the antics that he did as a kid, and we were in the middle of that.
Wow. So, okay, so as you were young ladies maturing, and he was pursuing the art, what was life like for you looking at him pursuing the art? How did you view it? How did it appear to you? Did it seem real? Did it seem like the dream was a reality? Did it feel like it was really happening? Was it a fantasy? Was it were you so separated from it? Because there was no internet, there wasn't a lot of pictures back then. It was a different world. So he was probably leaving the home and coming back, right? So what was that like as he went on his journey to pursue this dream of being this great artist?
Yeah. A couple of things. One is that we were really creative as children, super creative. And so Janine and I would put on, our dad was really social. And so on Friday and Saturday nights, friends would come over, they'd hang out, and all of that. And Janine and I would put on these really elaborate productions where we would sing and we'd perform songs and we would do these little skits and all of that. And so we would, perform, and it was a lot of fun. It was
What
just,
songs
we
were you
had
performing? When you perform, okay, you
The
sing.
Wiz, the whole soundtrack to
Ease
The
on
Wiz.
down, ease on down.
Seriously, all of it. When I think of home, I think of a home, all that. Yeah, every bit of it. Yeah.
So, yes, we had a lot of that going on. Jean-Michel,
There you go.
when he
Don't get me
decided to leave, he would leave. My dad would kind of bring him back. He said, I want to be an artist. I don't want your idea of what it is to have a career. I'm not interested in being a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, all of those things. I have, bigger dreams for myself.
He told your father that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, it was hard for him as a Haitian to understand that. For him, being an artist was a hobby. It wasn't something that allowed you to pay your rent. And since he came to this country at a young age, struggled himself as he worked to earn his degree as an accountant, he didn't want to have the same thing for his child. So, so Jean-Michel would go back out, go to Washington Square Park. My dad would go looking for him, bring him back. And then finally, it was like, no, this is my trajectory, and
This is the real
my
deal. This is
path.
what I want to do.
And if I have to leave home and couch surf in order to make that happen, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
to make that decision was a lot of courage.
Yeah.
A lot of
So
courage to do that.
I want to just point something out. Like a lot of people don't think about. You guys inherited, obviously, the estate from Jean-Michel's father. This is your brother we're talking about. So
That's right.
we have to humanize Jean-Michel and remember that we're not talking about an object. We're not talking about a painting.
Correct.
We're not talking about, we're talking about a human being that's their brother. Let's be clear about that.
Yeah.
That being said, I also want to make it very clear that you are two women who together are managing this huge estate. And so I'm going to go back to the beginning, but I just want to put it in everybody's mind and remember that they are literally managing this huge legacy, and it's up to them to make the decisions on how this legacy is going to be laid out to the world and how it's going to continue. So I just wanted to say that. So, yeah, let's have a round of applause. Influence in hip-hop, LL Cool J featuring DJ Z-Trip. I have the Basquiat family here, well, Herivo and Basquiat, and I have De La Soul in the building. So,
Before you touch on that,
Yeah.
though, I was thinking about that when you were speaking earlier about when you asked the question of whether he was going to continue, the two of you. And absolutely, because you guys have to do that for your legacy.
That's right.
You have family, and legacy is so important, and it's going to live beyond you. So your children and their children and so forth, they're going to have to carry that on, and it's important for you to continue so that continues to happen. So
That's right.
that's a beautiful thing. No, that's beautiful.
right.
Thank you.
But before I jump back in, did you have questions that you wanted to ask? Like, were you thinking? Did you have a thought?
Way off the beaten path, though.
That's
'Cause I know
okay.
y'all
Like,
from
you
the-
know, I could
y'all
back
from
up
the-
for a minute.
Y'all from the Haitian culture. What is that black rice? That is so delicious.
Oh, with the ink. Oh, the
Yeah,
black
yeah.
with the ink. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
Is it squidding? I don't know what that black rice is mean.
is the black
With some
rice?
shrimp in it.
You know what I'm saying? Man.
Oh,
what is
boy.
up with the black rice, for real? Talk to me.
Did you hear that?
Talk
so
to
the
me.
dye in it is from a special mushroom.
Say it again.
Mushroom is
The
it?
dye, what makes it black is a mushroom
Oh, it's
that
mushroom.
they use in order that they use to dye it, similar to how they use ink for pasta.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've never made it, but it is the.
But it
bomb.
must add a certain flavor
Oh,
to it, too, though.
with-
Because
absolutely,
it tastes
without it.
delicious, I'm trying to tell you.
Yo, I'm so hungry, B. You can't do this to me. You really are off the
I
beat
am
path.
hungry, though.
I need some
I'm
Haitian
hungry.
food. We need some,
I am hungry. I ain't gonna lie to y'all.
some of that fried fish. Come on now.
Oh,
guess
man.
For me, it's not even
Some
a.
pickles.
It's not necessarily even a question. It's just great hearing you talk because I remember Dave. He was Haitian,
Right.
and just being in his home and at a young age seeing his parents, it was the same thing. Like really, like so. You really think you're gonna do this hip hop thing? What is this? What is this noise?
Yeah, his whole family was
Right,
like
right,
that.
right.
You know,
His
because
aunties, everybody weighed
right.
in.
And
That's one thing about Haitians. The whole family weighs in.
That's right.
Yo.
Loudly.
But it was
Loudly.
it was something that truly for me, I learned to truly because they were very loving to us. But Miss Jollicourt, Dave's mom's, like she played no games.
No.
But she didn't make the black rice, but her rice was banging. Her rice was banging. Her rice was on point. Very on point. But she didn't
off
make
the
the
rice.
black rice, though.
I need some of that black rice
But
right
no,
now.
I'm talking about
No
the-
pun intended.
when we started traveling and to see how different cultures like of black people could be like, yo, we love y'all. But the way sometimes you think, it kind of, yo, we know struggle. Like, you should be thankful that you're not struggling the way we struggled. So you should be doing way more with your
Yes.
thinking and your mentality in your life. And it made me understand, like, wow, this is what Dave's parents was on with us. Like, you can look at like some of your other fellow black brothers and sisters in the neighborhood and be like, y'all need to understand, like, Haiti is no joke. Like, where we come
No
from.
question.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
I really got that as I got older. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's powerful. That's
But
powerful.
Don't
Yeah.
also don't forget that Haitians are very proud people. We could have really nothing, but the joy is in the love and in family and all of that. the first black country that, was, who was
Liberated.
Not going for it.
They're
Sorry,
liberated.
Thank you for the word. Liberated, not going for it.
Same
Liberated,
thing.
From
French.
from their oppressors. So the fact that they were able to do that, that's a pride that they have,
Yeah.
whether they're living in a shack. So that was taken and brought here
Yeah.
and instilled in us that you need to do better than we did and what our ancestors did.
So I'm so sorry.
Go ahead.
With Jean-Michel's work, even though he was going against what your father was saying, in his work itself, did you identify that he's showing that still in his work? In terms of that type of level of being instilled in him, or was he just...
That strength, that same
Yeah.
strength,
Yeah.
that grit, was it in his work?
Oh, absolutely. Because he sensed not only the oppression that was in Haiti, but also his own, experiences that he had here growing up and, being a black man, walking through the streets, not being able to catch a cab, feeling as though, anyone was, not understanding him because of the way he wore his hair, all of those things. So he lived with it daily until he passed.
I think just to go back, because I don't know, I just lost my complete train of thought 20 minutes ago when you asked about Jean-Michel. I think that I wasn't surprised by Jean-Michel, what he chose to do, because we were always so creative in the household. So it was just he was just going off and doing that thing that he was so good at doing. And as a child, I'm watching him do it, but I wasn't thinking about career or profession. I was thinking more about, he's doing the thing that he's been doing.
It was natural.
Very natural all of his life. And I think that in terms of what he's saying in his work, one of the things that I think is so profound about Jean-Michel is the fact that he had the ability to kind of take a step back. And I think sometimes we wind up in this little corner that we're in about our situation or our impression. And he talked about capitalism and racism, and he had a way of helping people to understand that what we're going through isn't just about us, it's about more of a global thing.
Definitely, and to add to that, I would think that a lot of his work actually points out the absurdity in some of
Exactly.
the less desirable aspects
That's
of
right.
our world.
Of
You know what I'm
humanity
saying?
and
Of
the way
humanity.
we treat each other.
Speaking to that, there is a certain, if you really get down to it, there is a certain amount of absurdity in racism. It's a little, if you really, when you get past it, it's absurd that you would think that way,
Yeah.
I didn't say it's not happening, and I didn't say it's not a real topic that we should deal with. I'm saying it is absurd that someone would take the time and the energy to be racist.
Right.
That's why would you want to
Right.
put your energy into that?
Right.
There's absurdity in that, and I think a lot of his work, pointed that out in a big way.
Well, I
you
think
know?
it's fear. To me,
Yeah.
the absurdity is that it really is stemmed in fear of what someone else could possibly do to you,
Yeah, or take away from you.
take away from you.
So let's talk about that. So Jean-Michel, we're talking about the early '80s, late '70s, but then the early '80s. He took the art world by storm.
That's right.
And he took it by storm, coming from Samo with his partner, and doing the poetry on the walls and the saying on the walls and all that stuff. He was doing those incredible, poems and sayings, and he took the art world by storm. Did he ever share with you any of what he was going through in terms of people trying to block him or help him or anything in between? Did he ever share with you what his journey was like in that world?
So it's interesting that you say taken by storm, because that wasn't the beginning. He got a lot of pushback. He made sure, Andy Warhol was one of his idols, and so he made sure that he got his work in front of him. If he knew that he was in a restaurant, he would show up and show him his work. And at first he was like, who is this guy? But
This is Andy Warhol at first. He was standoffish at first.
At first, yeah, because he didn't, some guy is walking into a restaurant and, showing him a postcard of his
Sitting there
work.
eating some spaghetti, and he's, yo, check out my postcard. All right.
Exactly. But then once he had his show at PS1, and he started taking off and having shows at Anita Nozay and Mary Boone, I think the world realized, oh wow, this guy is doing something different, different than what we've ever seen, and he has a voice. But you still had critics, and you still had people that were not ready to hear what he had to say, and you had museums that were offered work and not willing to hang it. Today they wish they had that work, but but
Boy,
that
do
was,
they ever.
But that is the reality of what he went through. So this I would be so happy for him to see where he is today, because it took a lot, took us so many years for people to finally give him his flowers.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Influencer Hip Hop, LL Cool J featuring DJ Z Trip. And we are talking to the Basquiat and Haribo family, Lasan and Janine, the sisters of Jean-Michel Basquiat. And we are De La Soul in the building. The De, the La, the Soul. You are protected by the De, the La, and the Soul. So it's crazy.
That's amazing.
So, man, I forgot what I was going to ask. I had a question. And it
Because
just started.
you caught the sissy.
Yeah. So, wow, it's unbelievable. So, the question I was going to ask was more about, the pushback, So let's dig deeper into that. Like, he did PS1. He made it in. Did he share those stories with you, though? Did he share any specific, other than the restaurant postcards with Andy Warhol? Did he share any moments with you that you're comfortable sharing that talked about what he was dealing with as he navigated his way through the art world? That's the best way to say it.
I think it was more about acceptance, right? So when you're having a conversation with a sibling at midnight when you come home, right? It's not like, oh, I was out there with, so-and-so. It was more about, Jean-Michel had a purpose. He was really driven, and he felt resistance, right? No one really understood what it was that he had within him. And if you look around at his artwork, this is a lot of energy to have within yourself in a world where you have dreadlocks and it's the 70s and you're a black guy and, people don't understand where you're coming from because there were no role models for him. There wasn't a Kehinde Wiley or someone else for him to point to where he can say, oh, there's a black man who has done this thing. So it was a constant challenge. And I also, and he didn't say these words to me, but I would offer that I think it was he knew it was a challenge, but he was navigating it. He was figuring out how to flow through and around that challenge and to show people that what he had within him was something they truly needed and wanted to see.
Okay, so it's obvious you ladies have explained to us that you had a patriarchal household. Your father was
That's right.
the head of the home. Let's talk about your mom. I don't hear you talk about her a lot. How did she respond during this journey that Jean-Michel is on as he went on this odyssey? How did she respond to that? What was her input? How did she feel like?
Our mom was really creative, and again, she wasn't in the household, but we saw her all the time, and she co-parented. And she didn't fully understand it, and our mother was also very creative. She was very creative and artistic person herself.
What was your mother's name?
Matilda.
Matilda.
Okay. Black Puerto Rican woman, gorgeous woman, seamstress, very creative, crocheted, all of that. She grew up in Brooklyn. She was tough as heck, soft and also super, super tough. She'd jack you up. She was not playing.
With her words.
But she was supportive, you know, not out there like, let me show you how to do it, but her heart was a heart where she could accept a person for who they were, and she accepted Jean-Michel for who he was.
And so, and I asked this question, just one more question on the subject of your mom. You know, there are no rules to this, and there are no rules to family. So people can choose the family the way they can set your household up the way you want. It is unusual, however, to hear about, you know, a man taking custody or being the main parent, you know, taking on that responsibility, especially when the
In
mother
that
is,
year, yeah,
you
back
know,
then.
back then, especially back then,
Yeah.
right? That was really unusual. How did, like, are you aware about how that decision came to be, or why that decision came to be? I don't want to like get too. I don't want, you know, don't reveal anything you're uncomfortable with. But I just, how did that happen?
We won't. And our parents, they got together and they were kind of creating the American dream. And they were very disciplined and strategic and structured about the way that they were going to do it. And the relationship did not work out. They were married for 13 years, and it didn't work out. And then my mom and dad went to kind of figure out like how they were going to navigate this, who was going to raise us. And my mother made the decision that she was going to have our dad raise us. And she did that. As a child, I was very hurt by it. I was confused by it. I was angry because it wasn't a world that I saw anyone else living. I didn't see anyone else whose father was raising them, so I was very angry with her. And then later on, what I came to understand was that this thing that our mother did, this decision that she made, was actually an act of love. It was an incredibly emotionally healthy decision to ensure that we grew up in the life that they had started to create for us.
Wow.
Because our father was the breadwinner. Now, mind you, our dad supported her for the rest of her life, so it wasn't that. It wasn't a fear of that. But she did not want to be a single mom trying to figure it out when our dad had the ability to do it. And they had that conversation, and that's how it wound up happening.
That's
I
pretty
was
special.
angry and hurt and upset as a kid. It was hard. It was really hard. But then later on, when I became a woman, and we had the opportunity, my mom and I, to really sit down and talk about that, she would allow me to ask her the same question a million times and to ask her whatever I wanted to ask her about it. And, you know, she didn't hide it. She was unapologetic about it. And she was like, listen, this was what we did, what we believed was best for you three. So
That's
yeah.
wow. It's powerful. So obviously, Jean-Michel became a magnificent artist. Most people know the story of his passing. We don't need to dwell on that. Your father inherited his estate, all of this body of work, this physical body of work, very different from a master, even masters or songs. Like, it's a physical body of work. So that means there's storage, there's a lot that goes into inheriting this estate. This is not just like, you know, a hard drive or a USB. Got it, you know.
Todd, can I correct you on one thing?
Please.
Our dad, yes, technically, legally, he inherited. Our father claimed his son's estate.
I love that.
That's what
Round of
happened.
applause.
That's what happened.
He claimed it. So let's get into that. Talk about that. How did he claim it? Who did he claim it from? Like explain that a little bit.
Our brother passed away, and he stepped in, and he is his father. You know, he is Jean-Michel's father, and he stepped in and he claimed his son's estate. He claimed his son's legacy. He took a moment to sit back and figure out how he was going to ensure that Jean-Michel's legacy was protected, cared for, respected, and honored. He had the hard conversations that he needed to have with people who were like, we're in the art world, so we're going to come and tell you. And he's like, you ain't going to tell me about my son. You know, he left his full-time role to learn the business that his son's legacy was in, and he claimed his son's legacy. That's what happened.
If you don't mind me
while
asking-
also, you know, losing I cannot imagine, you know, he did that while also continuing the life that he had, continuing, you know, we were young. I was 24, Jenny was 21, you know, and he lived his grief and his shock and his trauma of losing his son, while also living with the spotlight that then came on and all of that other stuff that came along with this horribly horrific tragedy that fell upon his family.
Was a quick question? Was there a moment where it was the estate was in throes, like all these other people were trying to claim it or trying to step up and sort of like was stuff on loan somewhere where like, or is this a situation where he had to sort of fight with these different people to get stuff back, or was it sort of one of these things where he just stepped up and was like stake in the ground, or did he have a battle on his hands?
It was all of that, and I think it's also, you know, Jean-Michel, we didn't expect Jean-Michel to pass away.
Sure.
You know, so it's like, imagine if something happened right now in this moment. You know, I have like my T-shirt laid out across my bed. I have, you know, maybe a friend has a record. I don't know.
Right,
you know,
right,
it was
right.
that. Yeah.
So just getting it all back,
Just
and just going to every place
Coming
where it
in
was and saying,
and what's going on here? What's happening?
That's
you know,
heavy.
both with
That's
his physical things and then also with his art. You know, and just making sure that, and also having, and that's where that Haitian kind of like, yeah, all that's great, but let's like get down to it, right? Just making sure that things were taken care of and that he was claiming his sons.
And how long did your dad manage the estate for, ultimately?
Till 2013 when he passed away.
2013.
Yeah.
And at that time, that's when you took over the management of the estate?
Correct.
And obviously, you know, I'm very clear, it was sad, now your dad has passed, and now that's kind of like probably the feelings, a second rush on time. It's like, I can only imagine, so I won't
It
dwell.
actually was the third rush because our
Okay,
mom
yeah.
passed a year before that.
The year before
no,
that.
sorry, excuse me, 2008. So 5 years prior to that. So, you know, it was one loss after another. So, you know, it was really important for Lisanne and I to really connect and really make sure that not only were our separate lives important in what we were doing outside of this, but that we stay connected with this thing that is so much bigger than she and I are, and that it really is something that we, you know, hold like an egg and pass down to future generations.
You strike me as strong. Obviously, you have to be in order to manage what you're managing. That being said, was it intimidating? Did you like, you know, did you feel like inside like, whoa, I hope I can handle this? Like, honestly, like, did you, you know, I know you can handle it, but what did it feel like when, I'm saying beyond the grief, I understand, you know, I'm talking about now, I have to put my corporate hat on, I have to be a businesswoman, you know, I'm an executive, I'm running this huge estate, these crazy sales are happening, the world is talking, you know, this is our thing now.
Yeah.
What did you feel?
So we come from a family of pioneers and strong women and strong men. You know, my grandmother in Haiti was a force. And, you know, her son came here, brought his entire family after him to this country. My mother was a force. And my dad raised us in a way that there was no option but to be responsible and strong. No other option.
You were prepared.
And so we knew that we had to, for lack of better words, put our big girl panties on and handle our business. And yeah, when we first stepped into that room, which seemed bigger than this, with a whole bunch of lawyers, you know, it was a little like, okay, this is different than what we're, you know, used to dealing with on a daily basis. But, you know, we looked at each other and said, we got this. You know, we know there's never been a doubt of what our purpose is in this. And so we knew
Right there, just real. And what is your purpose?
our purpose is to ensure that Jean-Michel's legacy is held with respect, integrity, and we are making decisions, making sure that we preserve that and we honor him. In every decision that we do about him, we make sure that we put him first.
I would add, I was scared as shit. I'm just gonna say it. I was seriously. For me personally, I processed. It was like when Jean-Michel passed away, I grieved, and I kept it moving because I was young, and I had a child of my own at the time, and I had to keep it moving. And then when our mother passed away in 2008, it was in the middle of a few life events that were happening in my life where I really had to keep it moving. When my father passed away, for me, it was like I really sat and had that moment in the death and loss of my mother, my brother, and my father all at the same time. And I know who I am, and I know what's in here, right? And I know my strength, and I know that at the end of the day, Johnny and I are gonna do this look that we do, and we're like, oh, fuck it, we're just gonna do it, And it was really, it was this moment of like, wow, okay, I'm really grieving, and I also really have to handle this situation at the same time. And it was slightly intimidating because it was like, our father passed away, and I remember walking into this room, this conference room on like the 75th floor. That's an exaggeration. But I'm going up there and like sitting in this room at a table, around a conference table that for me in the moment felt like the size of this room, with stacks of binders like this high. And I never felt so small and so young as I did in that moment. And I was there, my sister, Aunt Janine, and our stepmother, Nora, and we were just sitting there, the three of us, like, wow, because I never believed my father would die, ever. I just didn't, You know
what's amazing? That, like, you telling that story juxtaposed against this exhibit, the one that happened in New York, now the King Pleasure exhibit in L.A. How big is this? And how special and spectacular is this that they were able to manage this estate all the way to this point now where we have thousands of people coming from all over the world, to see the King Pleasure exhibit in downtown LA. Yo, it's the Influence of Hip Hop, LL Cool J featuring DJ Z Trip. I got Lasan and Janine in the building. You know what I mean? And I also have Maceo Imposter News in the building of De La Soul. This is a good vibe. So look, let's get into a little lighter fare now. Let's lighten it up. You know what I mean? Let's have some dessert, some intellectual dessert. Okay. Okay. This is a question for either one. What do you love about his work? And not he's my brother. No. What do you love about his work? What do you love about his work?
I love the authenticity of Jean-Michel's voice. I love the color. I love how bold his work is, and I love how unapologetic his expression is. He's like, I'm an artist, and it's not like I'm a painter or I'm a poet or I'm a, producer of music. It's like, I'm gonna express, and I'm gonna express freely, and I'm gonna express however I want to. And that's what I love. I love just that,
That's powerful. That's
Yeah.
powerful. Yeah. Janine, what do you love about it? What do you love about his work?
On top of all the color and how bright and bold it is, I love the little nuggets where you actually go into the work and you'll see a phrase or a term and you realize, what a jokester he was and how funny he was. And but at the same time, he has you thinking about, he poses it in a way where it's funny, but it really isn't. It's so powerful that you're receiving it that way, but it has you thinking about what it is that he was trying to say.
Yeah, that's powerful. So what's your favorite? Like, not your favorite piece of work, Nah, that's not because that's probably a common question. My question would be, what is the most meaningful slogan, phrase, or term in all of this body of work? Like, do you have one that you love?
I have a lot that I love.
Which the one that popped in your head first, though, that's the one.
The one that popped in my head first was the conveyor belt of life, because we just saw it in the exhibition.
Yeah.
There's so many.
Can we just talk about the conveyor belt of life?
Let's just do that.
Like the whole crowd right now is like, yeah, the conveyor belt of life. Everybody's like thinking about the conveyor belt of life. Yeah, it's real.
Can I just make one
please.
conveyor belt of life statement?
Definitely.
I received 3 Foot High and Rising from my brother. CD form, when I had a whole bunch of cassette tapes. Okay? And my son is in the audience. I gave my son, okay, the same album years later. And so I feel like I'm in hip hop church. I'm just gonna say it.
See, this is what I'm talking about. Oh my goodness, the influence of hip hop. Yo, Rock the Bells Radio. Wow,
That's
I mean,
amazing.
guys, you please respond to that. Mace, Paz, respond.
I'm humbled. I'm humbled by that, truly.
Me too. Yeah.
And I've just been learning about your brother recently, really. And when I walk around and look at his work today, it's so New York to me. It's concrete.
Yeah.
You know, it's very subliminal because you see the humor, but you see the harsh realities, especially of what we grew up around in New York City. I so see all of that. And at the same time, like, just sitting here listening to y'all and looking at it, it seemed like it's very synonymous to Anonymous Nobody. It's like it's collage art. He sampled himself. He just kept, reiterating his feelings.
That's right.
And it speaks to every human emotion, anger, happiness, sad, all of it, It's just dope, man. It's dope.
Yeah,
Those
you got to
who
come
dress
down.
better can receive Christ.
Yeah, those
That's
who
another
dress
one.
better can receive
That's
Christ was
another one.
another really powerful, that. Have a long conversation about that one, right? You got people looking, like the
Yeah,
record needle.
that's
Yo, Z, can I get a record needle skip? You know little. You don't know. You don't want to mess with Serrano.
A little rip in the record.
It's just, look, you got to come down to this exhibit. It's the King Pleasure exhibit in downtown LA. It's amazing. For those of you who are connoisseurs of the art world and who know Jean-Michel's work, you got to come see it. For those of you who haven't seen it, who are more casual, maybe this can be a great introduction for you to learn more about Jean-Michel's work and then the category of neo-expressionism, etc. So make sure you check out this King Pleasure
You don't
exhibit.
have to be a connoisseur, man. Overall,
Exactly.
if you into art, man, it's inspiring. I would say that much.
Absolutely.
You know?
Do you remember the first time when he posed for the magazine for the cover for the Times? Did he come home and show it to you? Did you see it on the stand? Like, did it come in the newspaper? Like,
He came to the house, to our childhood home, and with Andy Warhol, with a stack of them, and was kind of, thinking about all that he had said in this article, and so we were sitting around just kind of talking about it, and just really proud of him.
That's
It was,
amazing.
It was a great moment.
that was an amazing moment. And then at the exhibit, he actually signed a copy for your father.
Yes, there is a copy that is signed from my father that is included in the exhibit.
Yeah, there's so many special things, and you're listening through the radio, so you gotta come, you gotta definitely come down and check out the exhibit. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. We're in a room. I'm not gonna tell you too much about it, but I'll just tell you this. It is spectacular, and the art is spectacular. Everybody who's seen some of the art around here, can we talk about it? Is it spectacular or what? There it is. You know what I mean? So, just before we move on, let me just ask a couple of more questions. What are you inspired to do with this estate beyond protected? And you don't have to give me the next actual idea. I just want to know. Just give me a little glimpse of the vision. You know what I mean? Little glimpse.
We're going day by day, seriously. Taking on this exhibit was gargantuan for us. We've never curated a show. We've never done, an art exhibit ever. And we decided that we wanted to hire the best in the business. Miss Eileen Gallagher over there.
Eileen Gallagher. Give it
Eileen
up for
Gallagher.
her.
Shout out to Eileen Gallagher.
We gave her our vision. We told her what it was that we wanted to do. We wanted to do something different. We wanted to do something with color. We didn't want any white walls. We wanted an experience. And we wanted to show Jean-Michel in a different light than had been before. And the art is beautiful, and we wanted to show the art and show the works that we had that had not been seen. But we also wanted to show Jean-Michel as a human being. And that's when we decided to bring in the ephemera and his personal items and recreate our childhood home. All of those things that were pieces of what made Jean-Michel Jean-Michel. And so that's why this project is so important to us. And, will we continue to bring it other places? That's to be known. We haven't decided that yet, but it's just one piece.
I need a vacation first.
I know, me too. It's just one piece of us wanting to bring more of Jean-Michel to the world. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Lizanne?
Just stay tuned. I mean, I think for us, it's what has been so beautiful about this experience is having conversations with people who see his work, connect with his work, and not just people who are artists or people who are the connoisseurs of art, but people from all walks of life. We've had conversations with mothers who have said, my goodness, thank you so much, because what you've shown me is how to really honor my child's gifts and talents, or the person who is touched by how much our family and our dad and our mom have kind of held on to legacy. We have Jean-Michel's birth announcement,
Yes,
in a
unbelievable.
room. And so I think for us, it's like figuring out what is the best way for us to continue to share Jean-Michel with the world. We're doing it in as many ways as we, as have come to us so far. And I think that what's beautiful about Jean-Michel is that, it's everything. It's not just art. It's like art, it's music, it's food, it's film, it's, exhibitions, it's all kinds of things. So I think it's like whatever it is that we decide we are going to respond to. This is in response to all of the people who have said that they really want to know more about Jean-Michel. They want to know who he is. They want to know more about, his childhood. That's what this is the answer to. And then we'll see. I don't know. We'll see. But there's a lot. The sky's the limit. There's a lot of possibility. He left a lot of different possibilities for sure.
A lot of breadcrumb trails,
That's
a lot
right.
of seeds.
That's right.
Well, I would say that, for me, in closing that, the thing just, this exhibit and looking at his artwork and us conversating, the thing that I've come away with is that you should never hide from your inner magic, right? And you should never close off the doors inside of you that lead to the creative unknown. You know what I'm saying? You should be open to that. Yeah. And don't be afraid to be who you really are. A lot of us are living lives where we're, in a way, living the expectations of someone else. We're living we're walking in shoes that were laid out, an outfit that was laid out for us as opposed to who we are. Mm-hmm. So I would tell you, don't hide from your inner magic. Don't deny yourself the opportunity to maximize your potential in life and be all that you are. Dreams don't have deadlines, right? And so just continue to be great. Ladies, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Paz Mace, I appreciate you. Z-Trip,
Likewise,
fantastic
bro.
job. I appreciate you.
Thank you, man.
Rock the Bells Radio, Influencer Hip Hop, LL Cool J featuring DJ Z-Trip. We love you. Make sure you come down to the King Pleasure exhibit You know what I mean? Check out the life, the works, the art, the magic, the might of Jean-Michel Basquiat. De La Soul in the building. Peace. Rock the bells.